Before you ask, why do I want a sewing machine? Why? To sew sails for my model ships, of course. Originally, I sewed all my sails on an antique Spartan sewing machine that I purchased in an antique store. I loved it because it was in beautiful condition, almost like new, and I managed somehow to eventually gather every accessory that was ever made for it. I kept it for several years, and it worked, but boy, was it a pain to thread the needle and to adjust the thread tension. I fought with it every step of the way, but I did manage to make a few sails with it. The reason I'm making this video was because when I first got this sewing machine, I went on YouTube to see videos on how to use it. And they were all crap except one was a very good one, but it was in a foreign language. So here's my attempt to explain how this sewing machine works. I picked up this Brother XL-3750 sewing machine from the Goodwill store. The price was $30. I figured, how could I go wrong? But it turns out it was Veterans Discount Day, and I got another 25% off. So the total was only $22.65 after tax. I thought it looked as good as new. In fact, I was pleasantly surprised to see the original packing material was still holding the automatic needle threader in place. It seemed complete, but it didn't come with the foot control for the speed and the power. But I was able to order one on eBay for $12. It seemed brand new when I got it, with free shipping. The thread spool pin is recessed, so you have to pull it up to use it. That's probably so that you can collapse it and it'll fit back in the case and take up less room. On the top of the machine, there's a drawing showing you how to pull the thread around to wind the bobbin. You'll notice that it goes around clockwise and threads over itself. This is important. If you do it the other way, which I tried both ways, it will sometimes make a tangled mess when the bobbin gets full because the thread is too loose and it doesn't have enough tension on it at that point. On the bobbin end, things are a little more obvious. You just get the thread through the bobbin, hold it up with your finger, then press the bobbin to the right towards the ring that senses when the bobbin is full. This changes the clutch so that when you apply power, it will start winding the thread onto the bobbin. When the bobbin becomes full and the machine senses it, instead of shutting off like a normal machine, it just sort of slows down. That's when you're supposed to let your foot off the accelerator and go ahead and disconnect the bobbin. Here's my experiment in threading towards the bobbin in the wrong direction instead of following the directions to see what would happen. The thread path is fairly simple. You just flip it over this little metal clip on the back, and there's a drawing here to show you exactly how to do that. And then you go straight ahead down the slot that's furthest to the right on the machine. So we just go down the slot on the right, and then up the slot on the left. Now here you have to force it slightly to the right as you go to the back part, and then to the left as you come forward, and that will loop it around the arm. In order for this to work, the sewing arm must be at the very top of its travel, which you can tell by looking in the slot here when it's at the top. But you can also tell by easily looking at or feeling the hand wheel on the right. Depending on the light, it's a little hard to see because it is, after all, white on white. It doesn't have a black stripe or anything. But it is embossed and raised, so you can feel it. And here's a better picture of it close up. The drawing embossed on the top of the machine, which unfortunately isn't black, shows you how to hook it back to the right and then across and then to the left and down. Here you can see the circled is the metal clip that you're trying to get in that little V. By having it to the right, pushing it to the left, and then coming forward, it'll snag in there, and that'll be the proper way to get the thread down. So again, you just come down the slot on the right, then come up the slot on the left, and force the thread to the right and the back and to the left, and then as you come forward, it'll snag that hook on the top. After that, then right above the needle, there's this little clip you have to fasten the thread through. You have to push it back to the right and then to the left and snap it in, like this. In order to use this way cool needle threader, you must ensure that the needle is properly inserted. And by that I mean, when you insert it, the flat part has to go to the back so that the needle threader will pull the thread through the needle from the front to the back. Some older machines go left to right and right to left. In this machine, the thread must go from the front of the needle through to the back of it. Also, the needle needs to be pushed all the way to the top so that the distance down to the hole in the needle is the same for the threader as it is the needle. To use this automatic threader, you have to pull the thread across the little V-shaped metal piece on the left and then stretch it straight to the right underneath the little hook and then pull it up. It is hard to go wrong loading the bobbin, but you'll notice the little embossed symbol in front of the bobbin area shows you that you should have it rotating counterclockwise out of the bobbin before you drop it in the hole. To emphasize this, they even had another drawing, this time in color on white plastic, again to show you to do it counterclockwise as you drop it in the hole. They're not showing you to put it through the little slot just above the latch, but that's necessary too. The two rotary dials on the top control the tension and the stitch width. The stitch width is obvious by the embossed plastic. The tension is perhaps not so obvious, but setting it right in the middle at 4 works pretty good. If the thread puckers up on either the bottom or the top, just move the tension left or right and it should fix the problem. The control you will use the most, other than the foot control for the speed, is the reverse button, that big knob on the right, and you just push it down to make the machine run in reverse. This big selection knob, or I should say knobs, and the corresponding diagram on the front of the machine are needlessly confusing. I think it all has to do with the way the cams have to be changed mechanically in the machine in order to accomplish all of these fancy stitches. The irony is that the stitch you're most likely to use 99% of the time would be the straight stitch, which actually is number 2 as indicated in this picture, and above it the numbers from 4 to 1 to F to 0 represent the stitch length, which you can just turn that knob left and right to select. Now the F between the 1 and the 0 means fine. The numbers 4 to 0 are millimeters. All of the stitches in the top row of the chart have a width and a length, even the straight stitch. Here you can see if I change the width on the straight stitch, what it's actually doing is moving the needle to the left and the right. A setting of 5 is all the way to the left, a setting of 0 is all the way to the right. You need to know that if you're putting on a special foot and you want that needle to go through the hole in the foot, and it's not one that's set up for a zigzag, so you don't break your needle. Rotating the outer control dial counterclockwise all the way sets it to SS1, meaning special stitch 1. Rotating it clockwise all the way goes to SS2. You might wonder, what about the settings 1, 2, and 3, or 14 and 15 if you select the wrong special stitch? Which of course I had to try. If you select special stitch 2 and put in the numbers for special stitch 1 or numbers 2 and 3 for normal stitches, you will in fact duplicate the special stitch 1 settings of 14 and 15. So special switch 2 set at 14 gives the same as special stitch 1 set at 14, and the same with 15. This works, but it can only cause confusion, and who knows, you might actually harm the machine by trying to use options that don't actually exist in the cams inside the machine. The automatic buttonhole setting, setting 1, gives confusing results if you set the outer rotating dial to special stitch 1 or special stitch 2. I tried it and it seemed like it was about the same as the special stitch 115, except it had a much smaller width. I had the width setting to maximum, and the width that resulted was much smaller than special stitch 15. If you select position 1, the special automatic buttonhole setting, but don't have the buttonhole foot in place, then you get predictable results. You get sort of a zigzag. Of course, if you set the width to 0, it's a straight stitch, and if you set the width wide, you get a zigzag. And of course, the stitch length adjusts it appropriately. So if you accidentally put it in position 1, it probably does what we would believe to be the right thing. Just gives a zigzag stitch where you can control the width. Changing the feet on this brother is really kind of neat. There's just this little plastic switch on the back that you push and the foot just drops out. Take the old foot out, put the new foot in. Sometimes it's a little tricky to align it properly so that when you lower the foot like this, it actually hits the slot perfect. And I was trying to do it when I wasn't sitting right in front of the machine so that it was out of the way of the camera, but you can see it's a really neat way to replace the feet. And here's the button foot going in. Trying to make buttonholes and showing how to do it was a real challenge for me. I've never made a buttonhole before, and I probably never will again, but I just wanted to see how it worked. So here's my attempt at making the first buttonholes. The buttonhole foot, you just push that little lever forward to size it for the button that's going to fit in the hole when you install the foot. The adjustments for the buttonhole foot are kind of critical, and you have to try it a few times to get it right. So you need it set on position 1, and you need to set it on the F for fine stitch length. And the zigzag pattern, you'll have to play with it a little, but I found that a setting of 4 worked about right. Notice this chrome lever on the left side. I already pulled it down, but it's normally stuck with it. You have to pull it down, and then before you start your buttonhole stitch, you need to push it back. So you can see me push it back. So it's way up, you pull it down, push it back. If you don't do that, you can sew all you want and you'll never make a button. As you can see, not perfect, but it took me way more tries to get it this close than you can imagine. You'll notice that the stitching on the right is fairly tight and the stitching on the left is fairly loose. The way you correct that is with this little adjustment on the front of the machine with the minus and plus. This only adjusts the left side. So to make the left side tighter, you would turn it counterclockwise in the minus direction. And if you needed to loosen or tighten the right side of the buttonhole stitch, you do that with the fine feed going from F to 1 or down towards 0. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Oh, hi guys. You know, if you click the subscribe button just below the video, you never know what you might see next. Just saying.